Welcome to Stitch with me. Today we are going to be working on our Peacock Mandala. Let's get started. Okay, as you can see, since last time I have put in these little V points out here, and I wanted to repeat the same thing that's right here. And so these have a buttonholed, one of the purple is buttonholed into here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. My threads are not happy. They are, there we go, coming off the end. That might be from my grandkids playing with them. We're going to try and hang on to it and see if we can preserve that roll or that spool. Okay. So buttonhole stitch or blanket stitch is not really a verb, but I have turned it into a verb. I call it buttonholing it when we apply a buttonhole stitch around the edge of something. It kind of gives it a fancy little ridge to it. I'm going to do 2 loops through the end of my thread here. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that the end of my thread gets frayed like this. A long time ago, when I first started using razzles and dazzles, I would trim them every time, and all that happens is it gets you another place where the it'll just get more frayed. So just leave it the where it is. All right, we're going to start out here, and so this is a little bit like doing the blanket stitch again, but we're going to do it a couple of times in each of these holes. So we're just going to start on the outside and go under. And that will create like a blanket stitch there. It'll give us a ridge, and we're going to want to fill in this space. So that looks like 3 will fit well in that space. Let's see if 3 fit in the next one, or if I only need 2 for the next one. 1, 2. Let's do 3. It looks like 3 is going to be the magic number here. 3 in the next one. 1, 2. Okay, I need to make sure that my second one ends up after my first one in that space. There's the third one. So to keep them in line, oops, I forgot that I like to zoom in on this a little bit. There we go. To keep them in line, I'm going to hold the thread back to this side, because that will make sure that I am getting them in line. 1, 2, 3. Up here on the tip, we may need to go 1 more, so I'm going to go 4 in this one, and then we'll do 3 down the other side. Okay, now we're going in between the next 2. 1, 2, 3, and 3 in the next one. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 'I can feel that my thread is twisting, so I may want to let it hang and come untwisted like this. Okay, let's hang it up, let it untwist. Okay, that's 2 in that section, so we need a third one in that section. And then 3 in this last section down here. 1. Well, there might not be room for 3 here. Maybe 2 is what we want. Yeah, because we want to come down right there. Okay, that's what we're looking for. in between. It's just giving it that purple edge that will mimic, okay, put it where they can see it. Give it that purple edge that will mimic the center part right here. Okay, I'm going to tie that one off, and then we're going to do the next row. I could finish all of these all the way around. Come on. But I want to do another one of the eyes, or the what looks like the peacock eye. And so let's mark one of those. Let's see. I drew, there we go, one on the computer so that I could see. So this gray area right here covers up these guys. So you can see it just goes past the gray. So I want it to match the gray edges. And that should be where we need things. Okay, so now we're ready to mark. We're going to mark inside and outside of each of these spots. Oh, usually I put this on a harder surface because sometimes my pencil goes through the through this wool and tries to mark my table cover. Okay, let's go doot, 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 doot. And we'll come in there. Let's go down to the corner there, down to the corner here, and let's do a couple around the top. All right, did that mark any of it? Let's see what we got here. Not very well. All right, I'm seeing this right here. I might put it down and mark it again. All right, I'm gonna mark this one on this, on top of this surface because I think I'll get better marks. Okay, let's go around the circle. Let's do the little bumpy eye in the middle. And now let's do the big gold part. And the spikes out here. Aha, that's the kind of markings we were looking for. Okay, so I'll go back and remark that other one on a better surface. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the lines in between. But keep in mind that where those dots are, excuse me, I purposely put those on the spots where we'd be drawing these. Oops. I think I messed up there. That one goes to there, that one goes to there. Yeah, I totally messed up on that one. That one goes to there, that one goes to there, that one goes to there. Okay, so let's get these right. Okay, now this outside one is an oval. See, it's not a circle, it's an oval. And then the inside one, it's kind of like a pizza with a wedge out of the bottom of it. All right, that's what we're looking for. All right, should we stitch it? Let's start with this one right here. So that is, let me make sure I've got all my that's this one. It turns out that this lovely color only comes in a big spool like this. No, maybe it comes smaller. I think I might have got it smaller. Yeah, well, we'll see. I have ordered most of the threads for these. So that as soon as I finish it and get the instructions written, I can do kits. Okay, if you remember on these from doing the last row, we're going to do the first one. As a straight stitch, because I want that outside one to be just straight. And then I'm going to come to the back and tie a knot. Now if I'd stitched this the opposite direction, I wouldn't have to be tying the knot here, but I need it to stay. So, and we'll come up. Okay, is that better where you can see it? Okay, come up right next to it. And the reason that I want to start and go this direction is because how I want them to lay. When you are using a razzle or a dazzle, they sometimes do not, they don't make square L's. They kind of make curves, and I want to use that curve to my advantage right here. So the next one goes from right here down to right here, like a blanket stitch. But we're going to take advantage of the curve. See how it's just got kind of a little bit of a curve to it instead? Yeah, that's the curve we're going for. And then from here to that spot. Here's that spot. These are long, they go through thread really quick. And on the last one, I'm going to stay on the edge line of my, that's a really long one. I'm going to stay on the edge of the outside shape. Okay, and then just go down over here. And then we're going to repeat the same thing. I'm going to weave through some of the threads on the back. To get back up there. Interesting. I thought I was going in the same hole, but it did not come out in the same hole. So let's try that again. Kind of comes out to the side. I want it to be right in that center spot. There we go. Okay, down the other side. Now this means I'm doing them backwards, so I'm going to turn it upside down. But again, we're going to take advantage of that curve, that natural curve, in using a razzle or a dazzle. Now it doesn't quite make a V. It doesn't make a sharp V. You might think of blanket stitches as being a whole lot of little L's, but they, in fact, are sort of curvy. Now we'll also go back, and these are just straight stitches that are a thinner. This is Dazzle, and Wonderfil makes the same set of colors in one called Glamour, which is thinner. Okay, so that does our outside there. This is getting me excited to get this one done. Those are the two parts I lack, that purple around the outside and finishing up these eyes. Now these eyes take a while, but okay, next color up is the gold. Okay, remember I only take off my wraps when it gets loose. And this one is quite loose, so we're going to tighten this one up. I would say that I will be super sad when this color's gone, but I do have more. So it's one of my favorites. It's from the Wonderful Starry Night collection, which means it has two colors of rayon. I don't know how well you can see it. There's a lighter and a darker yellow gold, and then it has a metallic. Okay, let's see about threading this one. Okay, this is not my favorite needle, but it's the needle I have out here, and I don't know if I have any others out here. Okay, let's tie a knot in it and then flip it over so that we can see what we're doing. Okay, so we are supposed to fill in from that line to this line with a blanket stitch. So we're going to start. The trick is figuring out where that line ends. Let's get our paper back out here and look at this guy. He just comes so I can see where the circle is. And the circle is going to be the light turquoise inside of it. So we're trying to fill the rest of this space with the gold. But I don't want to fill it right down here because I don't think that the gold goes that far. So, okay. I'm going to start right over here on this side. Yeah. And is that the edge I want? Yes, that's the edge I want. Okay. So from the edge to that spot, behind the needle, pull it through. And remember, as we're going around, this is backwards of the usual direction I go. You know what? I'm going to go the other direction because I usually go take a step to the right and take a bite. Step to the right and take a bite. Now, if you're looking at that going, you left too big of a space in between remember that the second round you can come back and fill in whatever gaps are there. We want it to be close, but our outside circle is bigger than our inside circle, so there's going to be some gaps as we go. Okay, I could leave that little bit in between lavender, and I might, or I can come back and fill it in with the teal. Maybe we'll see how it looks when we get it done and see what we think. Okay, yep, I'm catching where the edge of that gold is supposed to go. Come on. This is the fraying that I'm talking about. You can use a beeswax or a thread conditioner if you want. On this stuff, I haven't found it to make a huge difference. Not too long of lengths. Like this one's long enough that I'm not surprised by that fraying. And then just lift it up and let it unwind. Okay, stick with this edge. It's a little harder to figure out where it is along the edge that's not as solid, but we are creating that edge there. So also you want to be careful not to encroach on the inside one, so let's keep outside of that, otherwise we're not going to have any room left on the inside of there. I'm trying to keep my stitches just outside of that white line. Okay. Come on. This thread is giving me fits, and look at how torn up it is. So let's get a new piece. That should have, that way makes it a knot. This way is supposed to undo the knot. There we go. Now we can pull it through, but since it's falling apart, and I'm not sure that it isn't falling apart because of the needle that I have, so I'm going to find another needle, because the needle that I have seems to have a really small eye. I think we need a bigger one for this. So let's tie this off, dispose of that, to pull us off a different one. And it's just a little rough on the inside, and I think that might be part of our problem. Let me see what I've got here. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, I believe that the needle that we had was a 20, yeah, it's a 24, and I think a 22 will be more successful with the with the Razzle and Dazzle. This one's Dazzle. I'm not sure how. I don't have a neat way to remember which one's Dazzle and which one's Razzle. There we go. Yeah, that one goes through a lot smoother, so I think it'll give us less trouble. Let's make sure we get our good knot in there and come up as if we were coming through the last time. Right up there in the corner. Okay, now, I know that we make every effort to make this as visible to you as it can be by zooming in and making sure it's lit. But man, I wish you could see the real color, because I'm disappointed in the color that's showing up on my screen, because it's not. It's prettier. That seems to be high contrast. Let's try backing this up just a little bit. That might make us, I think it's still zoomed in enough you can see it. Okay, we're almost halfway around. We might have the longest, hardest half to go, but okay, just keep going. Don't get worked up if you have gaps. Remember, we'll come back around and fill those. Just try to keep them snug and not slanted. You want them to be as, well, they should always point to the center. Oh, come on. Don't give us fits again. Are we curling? We are spinning and twisting, and let's hold it up. Yep, and let it untwist. Now, how can it have that many spirals in it? I haven't even made that many stitches with it yet. that? Yep. On the screen where you can see it. Can you hear any background sounds? I hear the sweet sounds of my loving husband washing all of my dye pans for me. All of the dye pans and jars and everything. He's had a day off of work today. His office is closed. I guess it's not really a day off of work, but the office is closed. So he doesn't have to be into the office bright and early today, so he's doing that for me. Sometimes they're big, heavy pots to be lifted both off of the stove and up into the sink, and that's wonderful that he helps me with that. But it's banging a little bit. Okay, I did jump a gap right there because I started to feel like my the knots up here were so close that it was getting a little slanted, and we don't want it to get slanted. We want it to be straight, because I'm approaching this spot right here, and I want that one to be straight. There we go. Yeah, I'll come back and fill those in, but you can see what I mean by it was starting to get a little bit slanted. Let's unspin it again in case. Nope, went around 4 or 5 times. So, okay, let's see how closely we can get our next few in here. Now, anytime you're doing a buttonhole or blanket stitch, you have the possibility, especially if they're close like this, that as you're pulling these in, you end up making a tunnel. Yeah, none of these show it. You kind of pull it too tight and you end up kind of making the whole thing pucker. So watch that as you're going around. That you're not pulling it too tight. You want to make sure your wool is still staying flat. You know that feeling that you get when you've been working on a project for long enough that you can't decide you like it anymore? I know, when I first started this one, I was super excited about it. And when I got the first round of the peacock eyes done, I was super excited about it. But this one has been, I guess, sneaking up on me lately. Because it felt like it only had a tiny bit left, and I just couldn't quite finish that last tiny little bit. And so now I'm like, as I work on other projects. I always have several projects going for a couple of different reasons. The first one is simpler reason. Sometimes you're just not in the mood for that project. Just not. It might be that it's got a stitch that's boring to you. It might be that it's got a stitch that's challenging to you. So you might want to warm up on something else before you start on it. So because of that, I would automatically have a couple different projects going. The other one is that I take stitching with me or do stitching while I do other things quite a bit. And that means that sometimes I need something where I don't have to pay attention to anything. Like on these, I gotta be watching those lines and then marking the next one. So it's not a good one to do during a lacrosse tournament, or sometime when I need to be paying attention to something else. Now, truth be told, when I'm watching my son play lacrosse, I'm not stitching anything, or football. I'm watching him play. But when he's out, or if he's out for a while, I might, or just the in-betweens, football has a halftime. Lacrosse has a halftime, but no entertainment during the halftime. So sometimes that's what I'm choosing to stitch instead of just veg on my phone. So I might want to take a project with me that's Just filling in, doing the same stitch more times than I don't have to count. So sometimes those, and some situations are better for applique where I'm just tacking them down. They're already pinned in place, so all I gotta do is go around them all. And because that sometimes requires some color changes, sometimes I want to take a project where there's going to be only be one color that I'm going to need the whole time, so I don't have to mess with additional colors. That's not an unusual thing. If I'm flying and it's a short flight, meaning like an hour or two, then I don't want to have to be opening and closing my bags over and over again to get different colors out. Okay, now we're ready for round 2, and remember what we do on round 2 is go back and just add a stitch. Most important thing on adding these stitches is that they tuck in. You want to start where the other ones start, but you want to tuck in underneath that ridge that our blanket stitch made. Okay. Yeah, they slide together as we add these stitches. You might look at it and go, oh no, I've got to have one in between every 2 stitches. But it turns out that they kind of slide together and it doesn't quite take that many. This is about where we switched up because we were having fits with the Henri thread with our needle. Yeah, so if you're ever thinking, does it really matter which needle I use? The answer is yes, it does matter. All right, we have managed to come down through a knot that we can't fully get through. That's what's pulling on these guys. So I'm going to get my needle underneath them if I can and give some resistance to that and pull back through on that knot. There we go. Okay. That, remember, is the job of your finger that's on the back to make sure that you're not getting into any knots on the back. So my fingers were slacking off there. I am completely unwound once you get to my needle right now, but that's okay. We're near the end of the thread, so we'll see how far we can get it to go. I think this is the one where I went back to straight. It's going to need 2 or 3. And I think we'll tie it off and start again. Okay. 1, 2. Is 2 necessary? That is a very good question. But I was stitching with someone who just did it once, and then before they had finished, so make sure the knot's good if there's just one. Before they had finished stitching around what they were stitching, the initial knot had come loose and the first few stitches started getting loose. So yeah, generally this is one of those where it's got to have a really secure knot. All right, let's go up here. That's This might be another spot where we might need two. Or two next to each other and they'll slide around. Let's put it down a good spot. Look, you can see the spot that I haven't been through yet because it's got bigger gaps in it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take pictures of these in natural light because all of the studio light that's on us makes this look. Let's see, what if we shut off this one? What would it look like? Oh, it's a little bit better. We'll turn it on so that you can see. But yeah, it's definitely bumping up the contrast on this to a not nice level. So I have finished the ocean lace one. That one is the one that's blue with white threads on it, and my original plan for that was to put that one on a white bag. And my Ember Bloom is the one that is corals and bright pinks and deep corals, and that one has the threads are all black. And again, that one I also thought that I would put on like a black bag, but I've put it on, put it in one of my stitch showcases. Those are the acrylic drawers where you can put it in the drawer and then it's visible through the top. And so I don't need 17 bags, so I may leave that one in the showcase. All right, I think that we are good on our gold around that one. So let's tie that off. I should have brought more than one needle. Didn't even think. Actually, let's tie it twice just in case. And then we'll put the turquoise on our needle. Okay, this one we stem stitched, if you remember. Okay, well there it is. I was like, what did I do with the needle? I can find the bad one. Okay. I think we're going to start on this edge right over here. Now remember that these, just in case we can't see, we're going to go back and add our little shape to the inside. There's a V out of the bottom of it. Kind of like that. So I think I'm going to do the V part later, but I'm going to start down here. And remember that if these stem stitches aren't short, they won't stick to the curve, and we'll have a gap between our gold and our turquoise here. And we'll go around 2 or 3 times depending on what it takes to fill it. And then we'll fill in that last little bit with the navy in French knots. So I will have to go find another needle. So now that you've seen the bulk of this one on a purple, would you do it on purple again? Would you do it on black? Black wouldn't make your your purple stand out as much, but your other colors would stand out a lot. Would be kind of interesting, huh? What do you think? Does the center need something to finish it off? Okay, I believe there's room for 2 stem stitches all the way around, and then we'll have to see where we're at, because I want to make sure that we have enough for the spot in the middle, but I don't really want it to take over. I want the turquoise to show. So if it takes 3 rows to get it to show, then we'll have slightly less French knots in the middle. I've definitely hit my line I'm supposed to stitch to on the sides. Let's try. Now we need that little divot out of the middle. I think what I want to do is do 1 straight stitch, from the middle down, and then we're going to try fly stitch over top of it, or yeah, to go around to it. Okay, I like where the outside of that is. I don't like the fact that feels like I'm missing a leg right here, but I'm just going to add that one. And then one of the keys of making this, that's not how it's supposed to look. One of the keys of making this turn out right I think we have a little knot in our thread. We've had more trouble with our dazzle today than usual. There we go. One of my least favorite things is when I'm recording along just fine and then I look over and it turns out my camera has frozen and I don't know why. So we're jumping back in when you're like, whoa, what happened? That's what happened. So I think that what I had done is the French knots, I think they were in between, but I just put French knots in there and there were a few tiny spots up at the top, so I just did single wrap French knots. And now I'm going back and adding the little bit of sparkle in between. So when I put it in between, sometimes it goes to the center of, it always comes out in the, it always comes to the front in the center, halfway in between, okay? But when I put it down, you kind of need to lay it and see, because if it were halfway in between, sometimes it'll end up like that would be halfway in between, and it ends up not really cutting that space in half. So aim where you want to cut that space in half, and that's where you want to go down. We worked really hard to get curves. Now those curves are coming back to bite us. Okay. And I just put one in each one of these. There are some that feel like they're a little bit big and that they're tempting to add a second one, like this one right here tempts me to add a second one. But we'll see. When I'm all done with everything, I can look at it and decide. Do you sing when you, or whistle or hum when you stitch? I am I don't know if it's hummer or singer. There is almost always sound coming from me. It's kind of interesting. My youngest, even when he was tiny, he did not like me singing to him. I mean, he was 6 months old and he would reach up with his little hand and cover my mouth. I was like, maybe he has really good hearing. And he's like, wow, you are off tune, Mom, and you don't know it. I don't know what the thing is. He's the same way now. He's 16, and when he gets in the car with me, unless I'm super stressed, I'm usually humming something. And he's like, Mom, stop. All right, the last thing that I was worried about was like right here, and if I would want something along right there. So I think we're going to try it and see what we think. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to want or where, but I'm going to try and kind of fill that space in a little bit. So let's start with a fly stitch, and then as we continue these fly stitches, let's just bring them in just a little bit so they're a little bit shorter. Whoa. So if you're ever like, is she just singing? Yeah, it comes out without me even realizing it. I just feel like this will give us almost a little bit of a finish to this, to the base of this one, because in order for us to get it to be about the same size, it ended up being. Okay, let's do that. Okay, is that enough, or do I want a straight line down? Let's do one more that is further down, then we might go back and fill in a little. There we go. Yeah, now I want to fill in between. All right, that's what we're going to put underneath to kind of be in the space in between each one. I really wish you could see the actual color of it. Hopefully when I'm able to take the pictures, that the colors will come out better. Thank you so much for joining me today. We will see you next time.